Hey, what's up, Dean? Zero Performance at the shop already, sweating first thing in the morning. AR's El Camino. I think I put it in the video. The car wouldn't shut off. Um, like I pulled it in 2 feet and it would not. No, I don't think it's in the video actually. But the issue was the car randomly wouldn't start. Like it wouldn't power the ECU and it was just weird. So yesterday, I couldn't get it to not power the ECU other than when I blew the fuse from pulling what I believe is the fuel pump wire, which I'll show you in a second. So I pulled the car in, shut the key off, the radio turned off, but that was about it. The gauges all stayed functioning, motor stayed running. That was very, very weird to me. So I took a little video. I'll put it in here. I sent him the video and said, hey, has it ever done this? He said, no. I think that's what I said. I can't remember because I was just like, what? So I ended up coming out, disconnecting the battery. That didn't stop it. I unplugged the alternator and you can hear everything change. It stopped charging. Could not undo the alternator like feed. It was scorching hot, so I couldn't undo that. So then I thought, man, how am I going to shut this thing off? So I came in and I pulled that red wire out of the fuse box that was shoved into ignition, and you can hear the car like stumble and then die, almost like that is a fuel pump feed. So this morning I came in and I said, okay, before I connect the battery, I want to disconnect the alternator. This red wire here that I showed is melting, and this wire is cooked. Like, it is hot. You can see it was melting everything. It melted into this whole casing, started to get this wire hot, which is the exciter wire, I believe. So I got this disconnected this morning. That's right here. But it's not a battery feed. So I traced it to this harness here. So I'm gonna have to pull the pin out because I believe it just goes to the bulkhead connector. It's in here. It's probably one of these two red wires here. I'll have to check and see where that's going, but I find it weird that that does not have battery power, because GM back in the day, red was always battery power, pink was always ignition power, and black was always ground. So I find it weird that that has no power, unless I pop the fuse, which very well could be. And I could check those. So I got that off. Then I pulled the red wire from the ignition where it was pushed in, and that is this wire here, which it had that orange wire with the fuse, inline fuse. It had this on it. It ran all the way over to this relay, which then feeds this wire, which runs all the way back across, and I believe to the bulkhead. Then this is going to the positive on the battery, and this one goes to this thing here that then has a fuse. Oh, sorry, no, this one goes to negative. Yeah, that's a negative, and then the other one goes to this thing with another fuse over to the positive battery terminal. So I have to figure out what this wire is. it's pretty wild how people wire things. It's just, I don't even know. Wild. So and then I said, man, the fan wiring is just bothering me. That it came from this side, came up to the top, went all the way across, came out, went all the way to the back. So here's the ground for the fan. Part of it. No, that's all of it. Part of it or all of it, I can't remember. But it actually goes to, yeah, it's all of it. It's just all wound up because I yanked that wire out. It actually goes to the back of the cylinder head down there for ground, which is fine. But what do you need 20 feet of ground for when your wiring came out right there and there's your battery? Like, run it over, put a post on the fender or something. Like, crazy to me that they ran it all the way over here. Then that's the, yeah, so that yellow butt connector is the positive for the fan, which is, I gotta try and keep these separated. Okay, apparently my phone overheated, but this is the positive for the fan all the way down here. So it's a nice thick gauge cable till it connects right here, and then it goes to like a cheesy, it's not the same gauge cable, but you know, the fan's right here, like there to here. Not that hard, and they're not triggering it with the ECU. So this green wire right here clearly says fan relay ground, and this is the ground, I mean the relay for the fan that they ran the ground up to here, which is not very good. You can see the fray, you can see it wiggling. So most likely I'm not totally opposed to leaving the relay in the car, being that it's all wired up and it has this should be ignition 12 volts. I gotta trace some of the wires and just make sure they're not stacked upon each other, because this car didn't have an electric fan. So where are they pulling? I mean, this is low voltage for the ignition trigger, but is it on a high voltage circuit? Like, you know, I got to kind of figure that out. This is not a ground, actually. This is for the Sirius wire. So that's crazy how big that bundle of wire is. But I'm not going to cut that because it goes up to this little antenna. So we'll leave that alone. See, I'm just trying to work through what is going on. The other wire is the fuel pump relay, which again is just crazy that this wire was all the way over to the fuse box and shoved into ignition. And this is the 12 volt feed, so it's like you could have used the same wire to trigger the fan relay as your 12 volt because it's low voltage side. That's not a big deal. Now, did they use, see, yeah, so they didn't even use a fan trigger. Wait, fuel pump. That's the one I don't see here, is a fuel pump trigger. Ignition, that's, so I will need to look at the schematic, which I found for this ECU, and see if there is a fan trigger in here, because I don't see one. And this is, oh, fuel relay. Hey. Oh, what the hell are they? What is going on? See, this is very, very, very confusing. That they have a fan relay right here, and this is the one that I talked about. They have the small orange wire going to the same feed that the ECU. So I wonder if that's my issue. And the one I need to, the other one I need to trace is the red wire that's coming off this fuse, that is then feeding this junction, but then there's an orange wire going back out. So I need to find this orange and this red. And the issue that I'm having is this harness comes out underneath the heater box and then is tucked down in there. That big harness right there, near the red wire, the one that the red wire is pulling on. And then over here you could just see down in there, see if I can't get it to focus on it. Yep, right there you see that heat cloth down there. That is that harness. And then right above it, right, let me see if I can get my finger in there, right there is a hose clamp on the harness, and I cannot get that harness to come up at all. So I need to find, yeah, I'm gonna have to find that red wire and that orange wire. That's what I need to do. So let me do that and then I'll come back. Okay, we are in it now. I ended up taking the wheel off, taking the inner fender out, pulled the starter main nut off. This wire's coming down to it. This wire's coming down to it. This one's labeled start, so I assume they meant starter. But you can see this one is getting hot. So that one goes up and into, well, the harness, I believe, which now I at least have access to the harness. But then I noticed we got a ground to the frame, to the block. Cool. But then the battery ground, I already undid it, but it was up here to the bracket. That's not a good ground at all in any way. Why they didn't just bring this down to that bolt there, maybe it was too short, but that's not an excuse for just getting a longer battery cable. Like, I don't think it's too short. I think it'll reach. It might not, but you have that cable, which is plenty long enough, I believe, that if you just unbolted it from there and brought it up, you'd have had a heavier gauge, very good ground directly to the block where it's supposed to be. This is what I'm saying. People do weird stuff. Like this bracket is painted. This is then it's bolted to the aluminum bracket that then is bolted to the cylinder head. So you're trying to transfer whatever. Like, it's not electrical current, but we'll call it electrical current. You're trying to transfer that through multiple points of connection. And everything relies on ground. Like even your starter is self-grounding to the block. So if it's not a good connection to the battery, like, you have issues. And now I'm kind of wondering if this was actually just a bad ground. Not everything, but if that bad ground is causing like the fuel gauge to freak out. I don't know if that will or not. And then a couple other issues, you know, like it could have led to. Whoa, see, you keep looking and you find that is melted. Look at that wire. So do you think we have an issue? Holy smokes, that wire's cooked. So that is, I have no idea what that wire's for. Wow, that wire is cooked. Man, see, like, stuff like this is bad. It's not that hard to wire. I can't even feel inside there. I find it very weird that you've got each wire taped individually. That's strange to me. So I wonder if they all melted together. But look at this. Half the strands are completely blown out of this. Man, oh man. So that'll have to get fixed. Which, there's enough wire there. Oh, it actually comes up into this T. Okay. I don't know what that one's for. Oh, does it go into that relay? It might go to that relay. That big red wire right there might actually go to that relay. So we'll have to look at that. I gotta text him a picture of that. That's definitely not good. Yeah, they did a good job on installing a lot of things. Like, I mean, this could be stuff that happened later on or whatever, who knows. But like, they puttied with some weird tacky putty around the firewall, so you know, no air, no nothing could get in there, and they strapped it up with a P-clamp and then ran it really good, and then did heat cloth so that it won't, you know, get the harness. I personally probably would have just taken the harness up through here. It would have come out here and then kind of tucked it along the top of the inner fender down in there, just to make it accessible, and then you can kind of route it down and around, so just to make it a little more accessible. It may not have been long enough to do that, who knows. But yeah, so I am now going to I almost want to put the inner fender, but I don't want to. Maybe I'll just set this down on a block so that I still have access to all that stuff. I still got to find that one. And that one there with the yellow, which may need to be on the starter in a sense. But normally, even on the older cars, normally you just have your two fusible links, which are right here. So it might be that is another fusible link, but I will have to trace this one back up, see where that's going. The guy next door brought me this tool, Klein. It is a advanced circuit tracer kit, ET450. Hold on. Okay, so like I was saying, it's a ET450. So I have no idea how to use it, but there's instructions, so that's cool. This, I think it sends a signal through the wire, and then you take your wand and it'll locate that symbol. See? Like, that's obviously a household outlet, but plug it into the outlet, and then this will tell you. So I'm gonna use this and see how it works and then come back. Okay, so I figured out quite a few things today on this, on the El Camino. This gray wire here, so I thought it was weird, and I pointed it out in the video that I posted earlier today, how the fuel pump relay was tied to the ECU battery power. So then this green wire right here is the fuel pump ground, then which goes to the ECU. Then they had this grounded to the firewall. Then this is this tan wire here that ran outside up to the top of the harness, that then tied into a thin gray wire that went back to the ECU, and it's labeled fuel pump relay control. So I gotta look that one up. But then this gray wire, it doesn't have the tag on it, was labeled fuel pump, and this one came up, went back down across, and was shoved in the top ignition port on the fuse box, which is wrong. If that goes to fuel pump, see, they had it shoved up there. That top one up there, you can't really see it too good, but that one up there, they had it shoved up in there, and I didn't really see that one too good. But until I tugged on it, and it was under the carpet, and then it came out and it went up and looped around a bunch, but it was stabbed in there. So here's what I think. I honestly think the fuel pump relay was keeping the ECU powered, because they had it wired so that ignition feeds back into the relay. So I should have wrote it out, but oh no, right there, see, fuel pump, and it had a male spade on it, and it was wired to the fuel pump. It just doesn't make sense how this is all wired. Now I don't know if somebody did this part or if this is how the harness came, but it is very confusing to me why this would be routed that way, because normally you trigger a relay. So normally you would feed battery in one side, ground, which is usually our ECU trigger, 12 volt ignition, and then your output, and that would close the circuit. And that's the way they've done it forever. Now this green with a white is labeled as fuel pump relay ground, which makes it even more confusing that then they had this ground to a ground. Like, it's just very weird. I don't know, it's very weird. But regardless, I took it all out, and that green wire ran over there. Now I'm not trying to hide wires like I normally would. This car is very exposed wiring, so I'm making them neat, and I am gonna put like a braided loom on them and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just kind of getting them in place, and I'll do my best to get loom on them to hide them, not hide them, but cover them. So the other thing I found was on the inner fender is this. Now I would assume this is a relay, but it's kind of broken inside, so I'm not sure what this is for. And you can see in there, you see all that sulfur that's built up in there. That's not good for a relay. And I think if you look, see how it's got a little bit of burnt coloring up on it? I think this plastic piece was getting stuck, but it has wire embedded in it, so I'm not trying to get it off or break it off or do anything bad to it because I don't really know what's going on with it. So we're gonna have to get a new one of those. For now, I'm just kind of hiding it over here. I'll keep it in mind. I did I took all the fan wiring out, so right now I have the fan plug, red and black, coming out the bottom of the fan, and then I put my ground to here, which this is the ground from the block. Goes over somewhere over there, right there. So that's my fan ground, and then I got my power ran up. Again, I'm not trying to hide the wires like I normally would. Stuffed it behind there, and I have it in a new relay. So that's the output of the relay in the back, and then the front will be the battery input, which, flip my phone around, the battery will be right here. So I could reuse this inline fuse, feed the battery over to it. I just got to extend this one, or I could bring it over some. So I will also jump off of here. I will jump to the ignition side. Then I have my green. This is my fan relay ground. So that is coming from the ECU. So now the fan won't run all the time. It'll only run when the ECU tells it to run. That green wire is the fuel pump relay trigger wire. You can see there's a new relay right there. So that green wire will go into the trigger on that. Then that red wire right there is the fuel pump. So I'll just cut it and put it into that. Then I will take a good size battery cable and I will run it. Whoops, let me zoom out. I'll run it from the battery positive over to the back side of the alternator. And then off the alternator, I'll split to a post. I'll put a post over here so that I could have, you know, a battery positive over here, and then I'll put a cover on it. Because it starts getting really cloudy with stuff. This is the ignition, and I cut that brown one out. You can see right there, I cut it out. I'll redo the crimp, but this is your coil, your standard coil from the fuse box, and they triggered the ECU with it. But then having that brown one in there was for something that went to the fan relay. So you can't do that. You're trying to draw. I mean, it could feed back into this. It could do all kinds of stuff, and you don't want to do that. Computers are really whiny. I took the ground for the fan off of there. So I'm gonna cut the starter wire, put a crimp in there, and heat shrink over it. Do that. Like today was like massive discovery day. I also fixed the 4 wires that I found. I don't know if it's before, because it's the end of the day. This one here, that basically like blew up. When I took the inner fender out, I don't know if I talked about it. That was this one right here. So I fixed all 4, heat shrunk. I just shortened the loop that it had. So that's all done. I took the red wire from inside that had the label start, and I did go back on the starter. But now you can see there's just the 2 fusible links and that 1 wire and the battery cable. I took 2 wires off of that. I took 1 from the alternator and 1 that was going inside to this circuit breaker that then went to the relay, and this is the one that was getting really, really hot. And now I kind of see why. If you look at that crimp, you can tell it's not crimped. It's split wide open. So that's not good. Not how you crimp. So yeah, good times. yeah, that went to another relay. There's the brown wire that went out to the ignition, which it's low voltage and you probably could do. It's just, I don't know. I didn't like it that way. Here's the other wires that went with this one. That's a couple of the other ones. So you can see they're all blown up and taped. Somebody just taped them. Figured, yeah, whatever, that's fine. There was one more. I think it threw it away. Then I just got to do the new negative cable. So tomorrow when I come in, I am going to probably put the inner fender back in, put the battery tray back in, put the battery back in, get the ground wire sorted, and then finish wiring up the 2 relays and alternator wire and all that stuff. I may take the battery cable, go to the post, and then off the post to the alternator. I don't really like doing it that way, but that's a really small post, and there's already the wire going up to there, which isn't the right wire, but it's just a small post, and I don't want to pile it up with a bunch of wires, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, I think I will have it sorted. I think I found the issue with backfeeding into relays and stuff, and then possibly this relay being damaged might have something to do with it. I haven't even traced where it goes. It just kind of goes down and over and then somewhere. So it definitely goes somewhere inside the car. I'm not sure what it's for, but that's kind of where I'm at. And this was a long video. I didn't end up using that Klein tool. I mean, it looks like a cool tool, but the damn thing takes 10 AAA batteries. Not using it, but I appreciate him letting me borrow it to use it, but I don't even, whatever. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm leaving off for today. We also, the Firebird pistons, lifter buckets, lifters, connecting rods, rings, main cap studs, the block, everything is back for that. So when he's ready, that motor can go together. I gotta find a place somewhere on a shelf for it. The crank is here, so everything is done. The heads are sitting here. We decked the heads, decked the block, line board the block, changed the oil galley, did the billet back oil galley plug, replaced the center cap. Remember, that's the block he bought. That's a Gen 3, and he was going after a Gen 4, but he made the mistake in buying that, and it had a thrust bearing issue. So that main cap, that center main cap, was wiped out. It's no good. So he had to replace it. Rob at Central Florida had to replace it. So he did that, and he's got it all line board good. All the bearing clearances have been checked. Everything's set up. We just got to go through the heads and clean the heads because he decked them, and you can kind of see there's some metal left in it. Again, it was as cheap as we can get it, kind of. Don't know that's the best thing, but that's what he's got. So for this one, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm hot. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of new videos, and as always, leave me a comment. And as always, have a good day.